Always enjoy the conversation with Ty Hudson from Tusk Talk with Ty. It's right here on YouTube. Tracking down the Razorbacks. I'm sure it's much about basketball right now, but we talk football here at the Voice of College Football, regardless of the record. And Ty, I was looking at this last night as I was going through my conference rankings, and certainly Arkansas did not help the SEC in that category last year with their loss to Liberty and BYU and the rest of it. I guess it was BYU last year. It was Liberty the year before.
Yeah. I was thinking, wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah, Arkansas, they lost to BYU. In 2022, they beat them. They went on the road and beat them. In 2023, they came in here and got the win. Of course, BYU is no longer an independent. They're a P5 now, but it's still that was certainly one that Hog fans thought no matter what they should be able to walk away with a win. Didn't happen. But the rest of the season kind of speaks for itself, though. I mean, it's not surprising looking back on it, them losing that one and the struggles that they had in SEC play.
So, Ty, the current saga surrounding Arkansas football is this curious situation with Quincey McAdoo, the defensive back, who was so prominent and down the stretch as you were filling me in on in 2022. And what is the latest on his situation?
Well, it's fascinating because let me lay it out first, and for anyone who may have forgotten, or maybe you're a fan of another SEC program and you're kind of on the outside looking in on the Quincey McAdoo situation. This is a guy in 2022, by the way, recruited to play wide receiver. Played both sides of the ball in high school, and I don't know. I've been told he was actually recruited by a number of schools to play defensive back. Arkansas got him as a wide receiver. Towards the end of the 2022 season, and it might have been Liberty was his first opportunity. I can't really recall, but it was towards the end of the season. They threw him out there at corner, and he was spectacular. And he played 4 or 5 games at the position. He was. I mean, you can argue he was a big piece of that defense again in the latter half of the 2022 season, in a year where they needed help. That secondary was atrocious. Now, stat wise, you go back and you look at Arkansas's numbers; they were really bad in the secondary. They're one of the worst in the country, not just the conference, but in the country, finishing somewhere like 128th or whatever in 2022. That would flip in 23. Unfortunately, in the offseason, he was involved in a car accident. I won't speak to the car accident because it would be pure speculation on my part, but from what I understand, he was in the hospital for a little while, did not play in 2023, again, which is an amazing job by the staff, to lose someone like that who played such a key part in 2022 in the secondary, for them to turn around and have like a top 40 passing defense or in terms of passing yards allowed. What a dramatic turnaround. But unfortunately, McAdoo wasn't a part of it. But in 2022, he had 30 tackles, 2 interceptions, a handful of pass breakups. I mean, again, he was a pretty big part. So we get through the season. We're all kind of waiting on the news on McAdoo. Well, it turns out that I think this was published on the 17th, on January 17th, that Quincey McAdoo, that his football career, at least at Arkansas, was over, that he was going to take a medical hardship and that he was done here. And then he comes out and tweets not long after this is breaking throughout Arkansas media. He tweets, this is again coming from Quincey McAdoo, this was the 17th. At 1:41 p.m., counting me out before the doctors say is crazy. So I think the scenario is probably, I think what's happening here is he's probably not going to play. He's not going to play football at Arkansas ever again. I think that's done and over with. I don't know what his options are moving forward. I don't know how all that works. A medical hardship, certainly, as far as I know, and you can explain this probably better than I can, at that school, he's not going to play if he's receiving the medical hardship from that school. He can attend college, but he can't play football, if I understand that correctly. But yeah, pretty big blow to them last year, which is why I bragged so much on what they did in the secondary. I did not expect. There were all kinds of rumors floating around. I talked to a couple of media folks who were like, yeah, he's never – I'd be shocked if he ever puts pads on again without being given specifics. So I've kind of always thought we would arrive to this conclusion, which was that he was probably never going to play at Arkansas again.
Got Ty Hudson here from Tusk Talk with Ty. It's right here on YouTube. Check him out for everything Arkansas Razorbacks. Baseball's coming up, basketball in full swing. When there's football news, check out Ty as well. I'm looking over the transfer portal. Jaquindon Jackson was one guy that we've talked about. It's been about it's only been a few weeks since he came into the fold. Just a number of guys that are intriguing. When you shake out the wins and the losses, the gains and the minuses there, how do you think Sam Pittman and crew are doing in the transfer portal?
Well, there's still a little bit of room left. It's kind of I think they've got about 3 spots left. They've got 13 total transfers committed. Don't know what they're going to do in February, if they're going to sign anybody else out of high school or not. I think they had always said they were going to take maybe 20 or under, and right now I think they're at 18 total committed, 17 signed. I don't know. So I think they're probably going to leave at least a couple of scholarships open. So that means they may, and I could be wrong about this. You never know. This changes, it seems like, every other week. I think they'll probably take maybe 1 or 2 more and then just leave the rest of the spots open at the moment, which is something to keep an eye on. They are looking at returning 9 super seniors for the 2024 season. Andrew Armstrong, the transfer wideout, along with Tyrone Broden, Isaac Tesla. Those are the 3 wideouts that are going to be super seniors that are all expected to return. We all know they can hop back into that dadgum post-spring portal, which is crazy to me that they do that so often in such a wide window. But Hudson Clark, veteran, super veteran, who's been here. I mean, he's been here since day one, right? So he'll be a super senior. Tykees Crawford, who was a transfer, Eric Gregory, Kyvie Rose, Jashad Stewart, and Keon Stewart. Those are all the players that are expected to come back. But to answer your portal question, I like what they've done so far. There's some really interesting, like a linebacker in the Georgia transfer, Xavier Sorey, 6'3", 215 pounds. He's a 4-star transfer. He was a 5-star out of high school. We ask, are they going to get another Drew Sanders, another former 5-star guy that, entered the portal and maybe didn't have quite the impact the previous year for whatever reason at that school, which for Sanders was Alabama. Can Xavier Sorey be that Drew Sanders, although different type of player, but can they expect someone at that linebacker spot to stand out? And it certainly seems like Xavier could be that. I like him a lot. I like watching his videos. Georgia people, I saw some of their reactions on Twitter. They were sad to see him go, and this could be a huge piece to their defense. They also got this kid out of Albany, 6'3", 275-pound. I think it's Anton Junkage. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's a 4-star portal guy, and he is on video because I've been watching his highlights. There's a video by a YouTuber by the name of Hoggy Bones, and it's monster defensive end, All-American, and it goes into it's about a 7-minute long highlight video, and I've watched it now 3 or 4 times. He is explosive. PFF loves him. I know they're under some scrutiny right now, but I like kind of diving into their deeper analytics. Some of their grading is a little bit suspect, but if you look at some of their deeper analytical numbers on him, I mean, they give him credit for 41 stops, which is kind of ridiculous. And a stop, according to PFF, is defensive stops, tackles that constitute a failure for the offense. So that could be, I'm assuming, tackle for loss or a line of scrimmage stop or I'm sure sacks are factored into that. He ended up with 14. I think the school said 15. ESPN said 14. PFF says 13 total sacks. a bunch of hurries. I mean, he's just, if you watch his video, he's exciting and he's very violent. He forced something like 5 fumbles on the year for Albany. He grades out, again, I'm suspect of some of their grading, but he grades out insanely high at 90.5. And I think that's the highest among all the transfers that they have coming in. So he is certainly someone worth keeping an eye on. I can't wait. I think he's expected to be here in the spring. I should be able to go watch practice this year again. So I'm hoping to keep an eye on him and watch him. I think he's going to be someone that everyone in the media, they're going to be floating around the defensive line trying to get an eye on him. He's someone who stands out, at least on PFF and what video is out there. They also got this running back out of Utah, Jaquindon Jackson, who was kind of he was highly rated out of high school. I think he was a part of the 2019 class. He was a unanimous 4-star quarterback. And then he eventually signed with Texas and he ends up at Utah and he plays running back at 6'2", almost 230 pounds. He also, I mean, you talk about grading, he grades out really high for them. His PFF grade is 82 overall. And he's considered a 4-star transfer. I like him a lot. He's a very heads up kind of player. He's kind of an abusive runner. I like him a lot. He reminds me of a former Razorback, Broderick Green. He reminds me a little bit of him. Again, similar size and kind of, you're just watching his athletic ability. This is that I think, again, it's a top-heavy transfer class, but I like it. I think they answered several questions.
Ty, it's going to be strange for a lot of folks across the nation that just check in on Arkansas and even around the SEC to turn the TV on, because I don't know that there have been that many quarterbacks in the last 5 years that have been more associated with their team than KJ Jefferson. As long as I could turn on Arkansas, KJ Jefferson's a quarterback. There he is. And I know that he got nicked up last year, so he didn't take all the snaps, and to a much lesser degree, but still, Rocket Sanders, of course, had that one massive season and was with the program for quite some time. So they lose a lot of identity in addition to experience and talent with those guys leaving. So this is almost kind of a restart for this team.
Yeah, it is. And also, the offense coordinator, they've got another change there, and I know it's funny. I've talked to some other people who are not Arkansas fans, and they ask me, is Kendall Briles still there? Isn't he still there? Because they associate him with KJ Jefferson. They're like, no, wait, I thought KJ was there, or KJ and Kendall were there last year. No, he left after the 2022 season. So yeah, it's going to be a reset. Bobby Petrino's back, which I know you and I have already talked about. There's going to be a very interesting battle. There's going to be battles all over this offense. I mean, I'll tell you right now, at running back, at quarterback, there might be kind of at wide receiver, although all those transfers I just mentioned they're coming back so far. They're expected to all return, and they were all starters a year ago. I think we're still kind of waiting on the Fayetteville kid, Isaiah Centennial. We're still kind of, there's still some belief that he might enter the portal, yet he's not said a word. So at the moment, I'm just going to assume he's going to return. He could be a really big piece for Arkansas's offense next year. But Talon Green is the transfer from Boise State, the quarterback, who I don't know so much, looking at his passing. I've watched a lot of video on him as well. He's got a very kind of not an unseen throwing motion, but it's certainly one that it catches your eye when you watch him throw, not for good or bad reasons. You just see it. I don't think it's quite a hitch, but it is kind of a little bit different throwing motion, especially what Arkansas fans have seen, considering how long KJ, as you'd mentioned, how long KJ had been here. But Talon Green is a fascinating piece in that quarterback room. And 6'6", 220 pounds. There's belief he's a mid to low 4.4 guy. He looks quick. Some people like to compare him to a Matt Jones. Matt Jones, by the time he left here, he was 6'6", 242 pounds, and he dropped to 4.37 laser 40 at the NFL Combine and was later on a first-round draft pick. Now, I'm not saying Talon Green is that. I'm not saying that. But he looks like a pretty exciting runner, very similar to Matt Jones, and he's got a little bit of a long stride, again, similar to Matt. Don't know if he's as fast as Matt, but he certainly doesn't have the 240 pounds either. But he's also, we're not talking about a guy going into his senior season either. Taylon Green's going to be another piece that I'm going to be watching. There's so much change to this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line could be a reset. I mean, we're still waiting on a couple of guys, but it could be an absolute reset on the offensive line. I don't know how to feel about that. It should be for the better, considering how atrocious they were last year. Like, that offensive line completely, I mean, it hindered any chance of success for any of the skill position guys. They were bad. They need this reset, but at the same time, I like Addison Nichols, this kid they got out of Tennessee. I like him a lot. Fernando Carmona, the offensive tackle from San Jose State. Keyshawn Blackstock from Michigan State. They have some interesting pieces up front, but it's going to be a reset on the offense outside of those transfer wide receivers. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But basketball season hasn't quite gone the way we all thought it would down here. They're not the, I really thought Arkansas was a top 3, top 4 team in the SEC. They look like they're going to be, right now they are a bottom 5 team. So that makes me even more anxious for both baseball, which we all know Arkansas, a great baseball school, and spring football. So I'm that much more fascinated, curious, and in a hurry to get to spring football. I'm ready for it. But all these new pieces, very exciting. And it's also, of course, the Bobby Petrino factor as well. It's going to be a very interesting spring. I'll say that. It's going to be an interesting 2024 season for Arkansas.
We are down near the end of January, and spring football usually kicks in about, I don't know if Arkansas' schedule's been announced, but usually the first week of March, second week of March, something in that range. So It's not far away. It's within 6 weeks, and I know you'll be out there as much as possible soaking it in.
Yeah. I'm hoping, they give us a little more access. They actually cut off all media access from, I think, the bye week, which was before Florida, and on. So they didn't give any media access. Now, I'm sure that changes because, we're in spring. We're not talking about fall football. We're not talking about, and also you had the offensive coordinator change. They wanted to keep as much under wrap as humanly possible. So I get that. So I'm sure they'll give us plenty of access. But I just, they give us about 4 periods, which is a grand total of maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Sometimes longer, it could be 6 periods because it's spring. They're not as concerned about what gets leaked out. That's what all this is about these days, is secrecy. And I get it, especially with Sam Pittman and this kind of change, so, but yeah, I'm going to be there taking notes, getting video. I'm excited for it. There's not, it needs to be here sooner than later, but we got to let the basketball season play out and everything, but we don't want to get it too far ahead of ourselves. But I'm very excited for spring. I can't wait.
Ty Hudson dropping by to break down Arkansas football for us. Just get us updated here. You can check out Ty's work, of course, on Tusk Talk with Ty. It's right here on YouTube. Everything Arkansas football, baseball, basketball. Ty, always appreciate you stopping by. You know that.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me on, man.